equal to app underscore underscore navigation. And in here, we're going to have a similar thing that we had in the navigation bar. So let's go to navbar and let's go ahead and copy this dynamic thing inside of the toggle URL, only the LIs and the content where we're mapping over all of our links. So let's copy it, go back to navigation dots and paste it right here. Let's indent this properly. And now we're going to have to modify it just a bit. Home, about, work, skills. We are also missing testimonials, and finally, contact. There, we're gonna get each individual item as well as the index. And now, instead of rendering the LI, we're simply gonna render an anchor tag. This anchor tag is going to have a few properties, so let's expand them, each in its own line. There we go, just like this. And the href is going to remain the same. We also need to add a key, which is going to be item plus index to make it unique. We're going to also have a class name equal to app underscore underscore navigation dash dot. And finally, we're going to have an inline style, which is going to say if active is triple equal to the current item, then we want to have a background color equal to, that's going to be hash 313 BAC. Otherwise, we can simply have an empty object. So this is going to be it. And this anchor tag can be self-closing. We don't have to render anything inside of it. So let's simply close it. And that is going to be it for our navigation dots. Now we can go back and continue where we left off inside of our app wrap. Now we do have access to real navigation dots and social media components, and we can convert our app wrap into a higher order component. So our app wrap is going to accept a component with a capital C, ID name, as well as class names. And it's going to return yet another function, which is going to be HOC, higher order component. And then that component is going to return some content. It might be confusing now, but it's going to make more sense as we keep writing it. So inside of here, first of all, we're going to give an ID to this div, which is going to be equal to ID name that's going to get passed through the props. It's also going to have a class name equal to a template string of app underscore underscore container and then space class names, so we can provide class names dynamically. Inside of here, we're going to render our social media. And then below, we're going to have a div. This div is going to have a class name equal to app underscore underscore wrapper and then app underscore underscore flex. And then there, we're going to render our actual component, which is going to be a specific section. So what we're doing right now is taking this entire section that you can see on the right side and wrapping it with all of this code, giving it an ID so that we can scroll to it, giving it some class names, and giving it social media. So it's wrapped in here. We're going to also give it a copyright, so we can say div that's going to have class name equal to copyright, and it's going to have two paragraphs. A paragraph is going to have a class name equal to p-text, and it's going to say 2020 Michael. And we can duplicate it one more time and say something like all rights reserved. Not for you guys, you can use this portfolio however you'd like. And finally, below this div, not this one, but rather this one, we're going to render our navigation dots. And we also need to provide an active, which is going to be equal to ID name. We need to know on which section are we currently on. And that's it. We are exporting default our app wrap. But now let me show you how you can use it. Let's go inside of our header, which is the first component or a container that we've created. And at the top, let's import app wrap. Import app wrap. That's going to be from //wrapper. But I don't think we've properly exported it yet, as you can see. So we have to go back to wrapper and create an index.js file. Inside of that index.js file, we can do export in curly braces, default as app wrap, and then from /app wrap. We're doing this because later on we're going to have one more wrapper. So right now it looks like our issue is right here while we're trying to import the components into the app wrap, and that is because we haven't exported these two components yet. So inside of our components index.js, we can export default as, and then that's going to be navigation dots, but just one time because we don't have to go into the inner folder. And finally, that's going to be social media. There we go. Now we have everything we need. So let's go back to header. And you might be wondering, how do we use this app wrap? Where do we put it? How do we wrap our header with it? Take a look at this. Before we export our header, we're just going to do one thing. We're going to call our app wrap component and pass the header as the first property. And then we're going to pass home as the second one. With this, we no longer have to add the ID of home to this div right here. Rather, take a look what's happening. We are going into app wrap and we're passing in our entire header section as our component, and we're passing in the ID name. So now if we reload the page and expand it, you can notice that we have our slider on the right side and the social media icons on the left. How cool is that? But if we scroll down, you're gonna notice that the second section still doesn't look good. So imagine if we had to manually re-add all of these things. That wouldn't be good. So what we can simply do is go into our second component, which is going to be about. Right here, we can simply import our app wrap. So import app wrap from //wrapper. We don't need these images anymore. And now we can just repeat the process. Export default. We call the app wrap the about, and then pass in the about as the ID where we want to scroll to, and save it. Now, if we expand this, you're gonna notice that this section now takes the full height of the screen, has social media icons on the bottom left, and has the slider on the right. And we can actually slide with the animation from the first to the second section. Isn't this crazy? So, alongside this video where you just wanted to learn how to do a portfolio, I've also taught you how to use higher order components to wrap your smaller components that share similar functionalities. You're welcome. If you like that, definitely make sure to leave a like and comment down below that you've came the higher order components part of the video. I appreciate it. With that said, our first two major sections as well as the navigation bar are completely done. Now we're going to go to the next section, which is going to be your creative portfolio. Great. Let's collapse this just a bit, close all of the files, and open up only the creative portfolio. That's going to be container and finally work. There we go. We can also see that we have 4 more sections to do, so work or portfolio section is next. To start with our work section, we can first import all of the necessary dependencies. These are going to be use state as well as the use effect coming from React. Then we're going to import some icons. Import AI fill I as well as the AI fill GitHub. And these are coming from react-icons/AI. Right below that, we're gonna import motion one more time, which is coming from framer-motion. Then we're gonna also import app wrap, since now we have it, so we can do that instantly. And we're gonna import that from /wrapper. We can also import the URL for as well as the client from /client, because we now already have that as well. And then finally, we have our SCSS file. So now we can start coding out the works section, which is actually the creative portfolio. So right here, we don't need a div. We can just use a basic React fragment. And then inside of here, we're going to have an h2. This h2 is going to be similar to the one we've had in the about section. So we can go here and just copy this one, go back and then paste it. Instead of saying, I know that good apps mean good business, we can say something like my creative and then space span. Inside of there, we can say portfolio. And then outside of the span, we can simply say section. Of course, you don't need to add that section if you don't like to, but it's looking good. So right below this h2, we're going to have a div. And this div is going to have a class name equal to app__work-filter. There, we can loop over all of our categories. Right now, the categories are static, so let's create an array. UI, UX can be one category. We can have web app as the second one. Then we're going to have mobile app as the third one. And finally, let's do React.js as well as all. And we can map over it by saying .map. We're going to get each individual item as well as the index. And the question is, what do we want to return for each one of these items? And that is going to be a div. More specifically, a div that's going to have a key equal to index. It's also going to have an onClick property, which is going to call a callback function, handle work filter, and we want to pass in the item. Of course, this is a function that we haven't yet created. So right at the top, we can create the const handle work filter, which is going to accept the item. These are going to be those little pills that we can use to categorize our applications. Once we have the onClick, we can also add a class name, which is going to be a dynamic template string. app__work-filter-item space app__flex, and then space p-text, and then finally, dynamically, if active filter is triple equal to item, in that case, we want to add item-active. Else, we simply want to add an empty string. Now, you might be wondering, what is this active filter? And that is going to be our state. So right at the top, we can say use state snippet, and that's going to be active filter. And at the start, it can be set to all. Great, we are out of our error, and we can continue creating our div. Inside of this div, we simply want to show an item. And there we go, UI, UX, web, these are all the categories. Of course, it's not looking good right now because we haven't yet implemented the styles. Now, below this entire div, we're gonna have a motion div, motion.div. That motion div is going to have the animate property equal to animate card. And that animate card is going to be yet another special state that we're going to change. So let's set the use state snippet to be equal to animate card, set animate card, and at the start, it's going to be set to an object containing the Y property equal to 0 and opacity equal to 1. But later on, we're going to move these around so that the elements in our list change. Then let's also add a transition, which is going to be equal to duration of 0.5 seconds, as well as delay children to 0.5. And finally, let's also provide a class name, which is going to be equal to app__work-portfolio. There we go. Now inside of here, we have to actually loop over our portfolio items. So it might be a good idea to fetch them first. And remember, the fetching is going to be done through Sanity because we're working with real data. So let's create a use effect right here. And that use effect is going to happen only at the start of our application or at the render of our component. And there we need to write a query. Const query is equal to a string, asterisk, square brackets, underscore type is equal to works. There we go. And finally, we have to say client.fetch query, and then then. Once we get the data, we want to set it. So what we can do is say set works is equal to data, and also set filter work is equal to data. There we go. And these are both going to be different states. So let's create those state fields. Use state works, which is going to be an empty array at the start, and also use state, that's going to be filter work. There we go. And that's also going to be empty at the start or an empty array. Great. So now we can actually map over that data right here. We can open a dynamic block of code and say filter work, not map, rather map. And then right here, we can get the work and the index. And for each one, we want to return a div. That div is going to have a class name equal to app__work-item and app__flex. And of course, the key is going to be index. Inside of there, we want to have one more div. This div is going to have a class name equal to app__work-img app__flex. And inside of there, we're going to have our image. So img, it's going to have a source or src equal to url4, and then we're going to pass in the work.img URL. And also alt tag is going to be work.name. Let's save this. And nothing should happen right away because we haven't yet populated our sanity work section. So if we go right here to contents and then works, we can add our first work. So let's go ahead and create it. The title is going to be Modern UX UI Website. Description can be a modern UI UX portfolio website. In here, you can put the link to your project. In this case, we can already use this deployed one. And in here, you can put the link to your code. So that's going to be https://github.com and then something. In this case, let's just leave it empty. You can also provide the image. So let's just use a random image right here. And finally, you can add the tags. So in this case, let's add a tag of UI UX. And of course, you can add multiple tags. So we can also add the old tag. And let's click publish. So now if we go back to our application and reload the page, you can see that we have our first project right here, at least just the image. So let's continue adding all of the other project details. Below our image, we're going to have a motion div. So motion.div, we're going to expand it just a bit. So right here, we can say while hover, and then there we can provide the opacity to change from 0 to 1. Then we also want to apply a transition, which is going to have a duration equal to 0.25, and then the ease is going to be set to ease in out. And in this case, we don't want to delay children, we want to stagger children. This means that the elements are going to show one after another, and that's going to be by 0.5 seconds. Of course, we have to add a comma right here. Just below, we also need to add a class name equal to app__work dash hover app__flex. And inside of that motion div, we're going to have an anchor tag. So right here, an anchor, that anchor is going to have an href equal to work.project link. And the target is going to be set to _blank. And whenever you have _blank, it is preferred to have the rel equal to no referrer. There we go. So this anchor tag is going to wrap our first icon, which is going to be this eye right here. So let's create one more motion div inside of it, motion.div, and that motion div is going to have similar properties to this one. So we can copy them, paste them here, while hover is going to have a scale property, and it's going to scale from 1 to 0.9. It's going to become smaller, but we're going to scale it while in view, and that's going to scale from 0 to 1. There we go. Transition is just going to have a duration of 0.25 seconds. And then finally, the class name is just going to be app__flex. And inside of there, so simple, we're just going to add our AI fill eye icon. That's it. Let's go back and see if we can maybe spot it. There we go. It's barely visible on the right side. Finally, we can copy this entire anchor tag and duplicate it just below, because for the second time, this is going to point to the code link. Everything is going to remain the same, but now we're going to render the AI fill GitHub icon. There we go. So now we have two icons somewhere on the side here. And finally, below this anchor tag, below the motion div, and below one more div, we're going to have our final div that's going to contain the title and the description of our project. So that's going to be a div. It's going to have a class name equal to app__work dash content, and also app__flex so that we can center everything. There, we're going to have an h4 that's going to have a class name equal to bold dash text. And there we can render the work dot title. Below that, we're going to also have a p tag. It's going to have a class name equal to p-text, and it's also going to have an inline style of margin top is equal to 10. And there we can render the work.description. There we go. If we save that, we can see our modern UI UX website and the description right here. Finally, we're going to also render the tags. So while still being inside of this div, we're going to add one div that's going to have a class name equal to app__work dash tag, and also app__flex. There, we simply want to render one p tag that's going to have a class name equal to p-text, and there we're simply going to say work.tags and render the first tag on the list. There we go. UI UX. Of course, this is looking awful right now, but remember, the end product is this, a nice list of appearing elements that all represent different projects in your portfolio. That's going to be it for the JSX, but let's not forget to wrap our work into app wrap. That's a funny name. And also, we have to provide the second parameter, which is the ID work. There we go. So now we've coded most of the work section. Of course, we are yet to handle the filters, but let's first apply the styles so that it looks like something. Because right now, this seems like the first project I've ever done in HTML and CSS. the image is too big and the flex is broken. Okay, let's go ahead and collapse this. Open up the works.scss and let's get to it. We're going to first target the .app__works. That's our entire section, which is going to have a flex equal to 1 and also width is equal to 100%. And we are going to also have a flex direction equal to column so that our title appears on top. Then we're going to target the .app__works -filter. And right here, we're going to change the display to be equal to flex -direction to be equal to row, justify-content to be equal to flex-start, align-items to be equal to center, and flex-wrap to be equal to wrap. There we go. Now we have all of these elements. Let's also apply some margin, like margin 4 rem, 0, and then 2 rem. There we go. Of course, we have to make these look like bills, like right here. So we can do that by styling each one of these individually. So while still being inside of this class, we can say .app__work -filter -item. Let's give them padding of 0.5 rem and 1 rem. There we go, to space them up a bit. Let's also give them a border -radius of 0.5 rem. And most importantly, background -color is equal to FFF. There we go. Let's also change the color of the text to something like 000 with a hash at the start. There we go. And let's also change the font -weight to be equal to 800. We can also make them appear clickable by adding the cursor equal to pointer, as well as the transition, all, 0.3 seconds, and ease. We can also provide the margin equal to 0.5 rem on all sides. There we go. So now the transition is going to happen once we actually hover over the elements. So we can say $, hover, background -color is var -secondary -color. Okay, right here I use the $. Looks like I've been using some PHP lately, but this was supposed to be an $. So let's quickly fix that. And now this is going to animate slowly. But of course, we also have to change the color to be equal to FFF. There we go, looking so much better already. Let's also add a media query just below, at media screen, and that's going to be min-width is 2000 pixels. There, we want to just increase the padding a bit by saying padding 1 rem and also 2 rem, and also increase the border radius. So border radius is going to be 0.85 rem. There we go. Again, not visible here, but on larger devices, it's definitely visible. Now, outside of our app work filter item, right here, we can also target the .item-active and give it a background color equal to the same one that we're hovering. So right here, simply paste this here. There we go. So now we know that all is currently active and we can select a different one. Thankfully, now is the time that we're going to focus on our portfolio and decreasing the size of this image. So let's go down a bit and let's target the .app__work -portfolio. There, we can set the display to be equal to flex, flex-wrap to be equal to wrap, justify-content to be equal to center, and align-items to be equal to center as well. This is not going to trigger any changes because we're yet to decrease the width of this image. So now we can target the individual .app__work -item and give it a width of 270 pixels. There we go. Now we can see our slider right here. Let's also change the flex-direction to be set to column, give it a margin of 2 rem, padding of 1 rem, border dash radius of 0.5 rem, a background color equal to white, and color equal to black. Of course, the image is still taking over, but trust me, we're going to fix that really soon. Or you know what? Let's fix it immediately. It's really triggering me. So let's go to .app__work-img. Let's change the width to 100%. And let's change the height to be equal to 230 pixels. Then we're going to make the position be relative. And most importantly, we can change the img tag to have a width of 100% and also a height of 100%. So now it's properly fitted here. We can also give it a border dash radius of 0.5 rem, and object dash fit is going to be cover. There we go, looking so much better. Also on big devices, we want to increase the height a bit. So we can say add media, screen, and min dash width 2000 pixels. We want to take this height and increase it to 350 pixels. So now our image is proper and we can continue with our app work item. More specifically, we need to make it a cursor dash pointer. So now we're going to have a pointer. We can copy the transition from above, this one right here, and paste it below our cursor pointer. Finally, we want to add the hover effect. So we can say and hover box dash shadow is going to be 0, 0, 25 pixels, RGBA 0, 0, 0, 0.2. So now if we hover, you can notice the shadow appear right behind it. And finally, we just want to add 2 more media queries. This is the first one, so we can copy it. Place it just below our hover. The min width is going to be 2000 pixels. And in here, we're going to change the width to 470 pixels. Also padding to be 1.25 rem, and border dash radius is going to be 0.75 rem. And let's also add 1 media query for smaller devices where the max width is going to be only 300 pixels. There, we can simply say width is 100% and also margin is equal to 1 rem. There we go. So this is already looking so much better, as you can see right here. But now we also have to fix these icons. Right here, if you can see them, we have 2 icons that are right now to the right of the image instead of over the image. So let's implement that hover effect. Below our image, we can target .app__work dash hover. Position is going to be set to absolute. That's already going to position it. The top is going to be set to 0. Left is going to be set to 0. Bottom 0, as well as the right 0 as well. And the width is going to be 100% if we fix this. And also the height is going to be 100%. Most importantly, the background dash color is going to be RGBA 000 0.5. So now if we hover, you can see this nice hover right here over the image. Let's also give it a border dash radius of 0.5 rem. Okay, already better. And also opacity 0, as well as the transition all 0.3 seconds ease. And now we have to target the div that's inside and finally the icons. So let's start with the div. That div is going to have a width of 50 pixels, a height of 50 pixels as well. It's going to have a border dash radius of 50% to make it a circle, as well as the background dash color of RGBA 000 0.5. Okay, we already have those circles right now. And let's change the color to be equal to white. So that's going to be hash FFF. Let's divide them a bit by giving them margin equal to 1. Font-family is going to be set to var --font -base. And font weight is going to be set to 800. Of course, let's give them a cursor equal to pointer, as well as this transition that we're going to copy from here. Last thing is to target the SVGs directly, give them a width of 50%, the height of 50%, as well as change the color to be equal to var, and then that's going to be not font base, but rather white color. And there we go. These icons are looking amazing, and these animations look playful as well. Finally, the simpler thing of all of this is going to be the bottom content section for the title and the description. So let's just scroll down and target the .app__work-content. Let's give it a bit of padding, like 0.5 rem. Also, let's set the width to be equal to 100%. Position to be set to relative, and flex-direction to be set to column. There we go, already looking much better. We can target the H1 inside of this by giving it a margin top is equal to 1 rem, and also line-height is equal to 1.5. The last thing we have to do is still inside of the app_work content, target the .app__work-tag. Let's give it a position equal to absolute. Let's apply padding equal to 0.5 rem and 1 rem on left and right. Let's give it a border-radius of 10 pixels, a background-color of FFF, and a top value equal to -25 pixels. There we go. So now it looks like it's coming outside of this white piece, and it's telling us that this project is in the UI UX category. And it provides this clean look where when we hover, you can see that this box darkens, but this pill remains the same. So that's looking great. But of course, we don't want to have just one project, so let's add the second one. Let's go to our content, works, and quickly add another. Let's do something like a Gericht restaurant project. If you watch the JavaScript Master YouTube channel, then you know that this is another modern UI UX project. The project link is going to be, well, let's put it blank for now. Same for the code link. And let's upload a random image. The tag can be this time all, as well as the UI UX. There we go. And let's publish it. Let's also add one more project of a different category so that we know if that works. Let's go ahead and say React application, or let's see what categories do we have. Mobile app. Okay. So right here we can say cool mobile app. Description is going to be Tinder clone in React Native. Project link is going to be nothing, code link nothing. Let's pull up the project image and put the tags as mobile app as well as the all, and let's publish it. Now, if we go back to our application and reload the page, just like that, we can scroll to our third section, which is our creative portfolio, and we have our 3 projects with great titles and descriptions. Also, we can hover over them and we can see what this project really is about if we go to the deployed link or visit a GitHub repository. Again, you can dynamically add or remove projects from here. That's great. The last thing we haven't done with this section is implementing the filtering. Right now, this doesn't do anything. So let's go back to our works.jsx and let's fix the handle work filter. To make the handle work filter work, we'll have to set the active filter to be equal to item. We can also set the animate card to be equal to an array where y is set to 100 and opacity is set to 0. This is going to re-trigger the shuffle animation of the cards once we change the category. Let's add a set timeout right here. We can use this set timeout function. Timeout accepts a number in milliseconds, like 500. And there we can recall the set animate cards and reset it back to y is 0 and opacity is 1. So this is going to re-trigger the animation. Finally, in the set timeout, we can say if item is equal to all. In that case, we want to set filter work to be equal to works. And else we want to set filter works to be equal to works.filter, where we get individual work, and we only want to keep it if work.tags.includes the item. Looks like I have a typo here, so set filter work. Let's go back, expand it, and let's go to React.js. There's nothing there. Mobile app, and there is our mobile application. And if we go to UI UX, there should be two applications, which you saw slide nicely from the bottom to the top. This is looking great. Should I even be amazed about the project I've created? That might not be normal, but I think we're all happy from time to time when we create a cool project. And I'm even happier because I'm sharing this project with you. One thing I am even more excited about, that soon enough, once I release the JavaScript Mastery Pro platform, I'll be able to share even better projects with you. This movie application is just one example where you can learn to code professionally and confidently. So this is coming soon enough. If you want to stay up to date with the release, there's going to be a newsletter link in the description, so make sure to sign up and wait for the updates. I just wanted to share that with you because I'm quite excited. So now we can go back to our application, take a look at all of the projects we've done, and we can start implementing the skills part of our page. So let's collapse this just a bit and go to our app, control click the skills, and we only have 3 more sections to do. Skills is going to be the next one. Inside of our skills, we're going to have some imports, and these imports are going to be almost the same as we had in the work. So let's go inside of our work and let's simply import all of these files right here. Let's go back to skills and then just paste them right here. Of course, we don't need this work.scss. So essentially, what we've just imported is going to be React, useState, useEffect. In this case, we won't need those icons, so we can remove that. We're going to use motion, and we're going to add one more dependency, import React tooltip, and that's going to be coming from React-tooltip. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think we've installed React tooltip as a dependency. So let's open up our terminal by going to View and then Terminal. Stop it from running by pressing Ctrl+C and then Y, and then simply type npm install React-tooltip. This process took a few seconds, and we can immediately run our application by running npm start. And there we go. We're back. We're going to also use app wrap, url_for, sanity client, and then skills.scss. Now we can start implementing our skills. Right here, we're going to have a React fragment. So let's create it. We're going to have an h2 element that's going to have a class name equal to head-text. And there we can simply say something like skills and experience. Let's save it and let's scroll down. There we go, skills and experience. Now we can go below that h2 and we can create a div. This div is going to have a class name equal to app underscore underscore skills dash container. And then inside of there, we're going to have a motion div. So motion.div. Of course, we have to add some properties into it. This div won't have any properties. So let's simply give it a class name equal to app underscore underscore skills dash list. And now we want to map over all of our skills. So skills.map. But before we do that, we of course have to fetch all of our skills from our Sanity CMS. So we're going to repeat the same process we've done so far when fetching other things, such as portfolio items. We can go back here and we can copy this use effect to now fetch our skills. So let's go here and paste it. We're going to have our query where we're going to fetch experiences. So right here, instead of work, type experiences. And then just below, we also want to fetch our skills. So right here, let's type skills, and that's going to be query. And there, simply type skills. So in this case, we have two different queries. And what we have to do now is called client.fetchQuery. Then we get the data, and this is the data for the experiences. So what we can do is simply set experience. And right here, we're gonna set the data. Now we can basically copy this thing, paste it below, but now we'll be fetching skills. So right here, we can say skills query, and then instead of set experience, we can set skills. There we go. And the last thing we have to do is of course create a use state field for experience and skills. So we can say use state. That's going to be experience, which is at the start going to be an empty array. And we can duplicate that. And right here, we can type skills as well as the set skills. So now we're fetching data that we can loop over. So let's start looping immediately. Right here, we can say skills.map. In here, in the callback function, we're going to get one individual skill every loop we go over. And then for each skill, we want to show a motion.div. This motion div is going to have some properties, nothing we've never seen so far. It's going to be while in view is equal to opacity from an array, where we're going to have from 0 to 1. Then we're going to also have a transition, which is going to have a duration of 0.5 seconds. We're going to also have a class name equal to app underscore underscore skills dash item, and also app underscore underscore flex. And finally, since we're looping over it, we can also provide a key as skill.name. In here, of course, we need to have a skill because we're looping over multiple skills, so we get an individual skill right here. Now, inside of our motion div, we're going to have one more normal div, and this div is going to have a class name equal to app underscore underscore flex. And it's also going to have an inline style of background color is going to be equal to skill.bg color. So we can also dynamically change the color of the skill if we define that in Sanity Studio. And inside of there, we're going to render an image, a self-closing tag that's going to have a source URL for, remember, and then we're going to pass in skill.icon. And all of these properties on a skill, like name, icon, and BG color, we're going to define ourselves in Sanity Studio. Or rather, we've already defined them when we were creating schemas. We also need to provide the alt tag, which is simply going to say skill.name. There we go. And finally, below this div that contains this image, we're going to have a p tag that's going to have a class name equal to p-text, and it's simply going to render skill.name. And with that, we should be close to done with our skills. but of course we cannot yet see how that looks like because we haven't entered anything into Sanity Studio. So one more time, you might already have it open, but I'm going to repeat the process: cd into backend Sanity and Sanity start. That's going to allow you to add more data to it. Once it loads, we can control click it, and now we can go under skills and create a new skill. In this case, we can say the skill is React. And again, if you go under assets, you should be able to find a lot of different icons, and React is right here. So you can right click and reveal in File Explorer. From here, we can find our React and simply drag and drop it. We can leave the BG color empty because if you don't already put one, we're going to choose a default color. So let's click publish. Of course, just to have a few more skills, we can go ahead and add just a few more, something like Figma. If you're a good designer, let's publish it. Again, take a look at how simple the process is. We can also add Flutter. Git is also an essential thing, so let's add Git right here. And what would a backend developer be without having Node.js skills? So let's also enter Node.js. There we go. This should be more than enough for now. So now if we go back and reload the page, you can see that we have our data ported straight from Sanity Studio. React, Node.js, Figma, Flutter, but of course now is the time to actually style all of these items. So in this case, before we actually go ahead and add our experiences here, let's go ahead and style just these icons. So we can go to our skills and we can start styling all the JSX that we already have. So let's start with .app __ skills. Flex is going to be set to 1 and width is going to be set to 100%. Also, flex-direction is going to be set to column. That way, the title is going to appear above. Then we can target .app __ skills -container. Let's give it a width of around 80% and also a margin -top of 3 rem. That's going to push it just a bit to the bottom. Then let's give it the property display is equal to flex, as well as the flex-direction is equal to row. Finally, we can also provide a media query. So right here, media screen, and we're going to say and max-width is 900 pixels. So this is for devices larger than tablets. There, we're going to make it a width of 100% and also flex-direction equal to column. So this is for mobile devices, larger mobiles, and even tablets up to 900 pixels. And most importantly, we need to target our .app __ skills -list. There, we can provide it a flex property equal to 1, display property equal to flex. Then we can give it a property of flex wrap is equal to wrap. We can also give it a property of justify -content is equal to flex-start, as well as align -items is also flex-start. Let's save it. And let's see what exactly are we styling. So this is going to be app, skills, and then list. So if we go back, right here, we have app, skills, list. But yeah, I was wondering why the styles haven't been applying. I missed an L right here. So as soon as we do that, you can notice that now we have some styling applied. But of course, it's still not looking good. So if we go back, we can also add a margin -right equal to 5 rem. And finally, we can copy this media query, apply it here as well. And there we can set the margin right to be equal to 0 if we are on mobile or tablet devices. And of course, on mobile or tablet, this is something that you're going to do really often, is justify content center and align -items center because there isn't a lot of horizontal space. And finally, we're styling each individual skill item by doing app __ skills -item. Let's first apply a flex-direction equal to column. We're going to also apply a text-align to be equal to center. Let's give it a margin equal to 1 rem to provide some space around each one. Let's give it a transition. So this transition is going to be the same one we've used so far, all 0.3 seconds, and ease in out. Now we can target the div that's inside of this item, give it a width of 90 pixels, as well as the height of 90 pixels as well. This is immediately going to collapse all of our divs. But of course, we also have to give them a border dash radius of 50%, as well as the background dash color equal to FFF. Now we're going to have these circles, but of course we have to target the image specifically. So IMG, and set the width to be equal to 50% and height 50% as well. And finally, we get these nice looking circle skills. Let's also provide some hover effect by doing a and right here, colon hover, and then on hover, we can apply the box shadow 0, 0, 25 pixels, and then the color can be FE, F4, F5. This is a really white color, and right now we can barely see it. It looks like it lights up once you hover over it. It's barely noticeable, but these things matter when you're creating websites. The more subtle the animation is, the better it is. You don't want to have some flashy animations. Let's also apply a media query. We can copy the one we've had so far. And that media query is going to go below our hover. There we want to say min width is going to be 2000 pixels. So this is going to be for extra large devices. And there we can simply change the width and the height to be 150 pixels instead of the basic 50. That's for large devices. And then for mobile devices, we can duplicate this one more time. And there we can simply turn this back to something like 70. There we go. So now if we expand this, there we go. Our skills are here. And if we make it a bit smaller, everything fits nicely. This is looking great. Finally, if we leave this div here and go below it, then we can target the paragraph. And that p tag can have a font weight of 500, as well as the margin dash top equal to 0.5 rem. If we save that, now this is going to be just a bit bolder so we can see it. And we can also provide a media query for that. So just outside of this P element, we can have a min width of 2000. And there we can say margin is 1 rem and 2 rem on left and right for extra large devices. Inside of it, we can also change the P tag just a bit by giving it a margin top 1 rem. I just figured that we need some extra space on the top if we're looking at this on extra large devices. And this is going to be it for our skills. How simple was it to implement all of this using Sanity and then code it out? Now, of course, we go to the second part of our skills and experience, which is of course the experience. So if we go back here to skills, we can now implement the JSX code for that. We can go below this entire motion div by creating a new motion div. So right here, motion.div. It's also going to have just a class name equal to app__skills -exp as in experience. There we can loop over all of the experiences. So that's going to look like this: experience, .works, and then .map. We want to map over each individual work, and we want to return a React fragment for it. Inside of this React fragment, we're going to have a motion.div. That motion div is of course going to have a few properties, and we can copy them from here because they're mostly going to be the same. So let's paste them here. Opacity is going to stay the same, transition as well. Class name is going to be a bit different. It's going to be app__skills -exp-work. We can also give a data-tip property to this motion div. And that data tip is useful whenever you have some tooltips. If you haven't created tooltips before, Don't worry, you'll see how it looks like soon enough. Then we can say data-4 and then say work.name. Of course, there's going to be an equal sign right here. And finally, we can provide a key, which is equal to work.name. Now, inside of there, we want to render an h4 element. So right here, let's say h4, and it's going to have a class name equal to bold dash text. And there we can simply render the work name. Great. Now below that, we're going to also have a paragraph. Let's create a p element right here. It's going to have a class name equal to p dash text. And there we can render the work.company that we worked for. Great. So now that we have this div, we want to be able to hover over it and see more information about it. For that reason, we're going to create a React tooltip component. This is a dependency that we installed, and we can simply call it as a component, provide a few properties to it, and that's going to be it. First, we need the ID, and the ID is going to be equal to work.name. Then we need the effect, which is going to be simply a string of solid. We also need the arrow color, which is going to be set to FFF. And finally, we need a class name, which is going to be skills-tooltip. And inside of there, we can render our work.description, or just DSC for short. And that's going to be it. So now let's go back to Sanity, Content, Work Experience, and let's go ahead and add it. Right here, we can enter the name of our experience. So let's say front-end developer. We can say the company. Let's in this case put Google. And the description can be, I worked as a front-end developer at Google. Of course, try to be just a bit more creative. Let's publish it. Go back to our React application and reload the page. It looks like we have some kind of an error at the moment. So let's go ahead and go to inspect and go to console. Looks like the browser is not defined and we're having an error reading the property undefined of map. Okay, so that's under skills line 48. I always like to include these errors in because it can definitely be helpful. So now we're looking for experience.works, and this experience is coming from experiences. Now, if we go to our Sanity, we can notice that our experiences are here and not under work experience. So rather, let's go to experiences and enter the year that we worked somewhere. Right here, let's say that it was 2020, and there we can add the item at which company did we work at. Let's say the name is going to be front-end developer. The company is going to be Google, and description can be I've worked as a front-end developer. There we go. Let's go ahead and publish. Now you can add multiple experiences for the same year. So this is the exact reason why we created it like this. Let's go back and reload. And looks like the error is not going to be just inside of that map. Looks like we also have some other errors. So let's go step by step. It's always good whenever you're not sure if you're going to get some data back to add a question mark. So in here, we can add a question mark, both here as well as here. And there we go. That fixed the issue. So now if we close this and go back, we can see that we have our skills, but still we cannot find experiences. So what we can do is, of course, we can console log what we get back from our experience. Right here, console.log, and that is going to be data. We can open up the inspect element, go to console, info, reload the page, and we get an array with one element that has all of our experience. That experience is an object that has the works array inside of it, and there we have all of the information. So if we're looking at this correctly, that experience is set up here, and then we want to do experience dot works, and then we want to map over that array, and that looks good to me. So if we reload the page one more time, I really think we shouldn't have any problems. Let's go ahead and quit mobile view, go down, and I still cannot see it. It's actually fun that we've been coding this app for such a long time, and this is the first error that occurred. So that's actually really good. And I always like to include these errors in. So let's go ahead and figure out the error together. I'm going to show you how I would solve this in real time. And I'm also going to show you a cool trick. Have you ever wondered if you can add console logs inside of your JSX? And you can. You can simply add a console log right here inside of the JSX. That way, we're going to know how does the experience dot works looks right here before we console log it. Also, we can add a string saying here that we know that we are referring to this specific console log. Now, if we expand this, you can see this is really interesting. We do get it above, but here it is undefined. So that is definitely the issue we're having. So what is the reason that we have our data above, but we don't have it here? Well, if we go to our experience, we can see that we're populating it here, but it is an array. So we have to loop over all of our experiences as well, because the objects in this array represent years, and every single year can have multiple experiences. So to fix the issue, we can go back to our JSX, and instead of immediately looping over experience that works, what we can do is first loop over only over the experience. That way, we're going to get different years. Let me show you what I mean. For now, I'm going to comment out this entire JSX block of code and move it one line below so that we don't have an issue with the compiler. Now inside of here, we can actually render just the work dot, and let's see what do we have in the work. Let's do year. There we go. So now you can see that this work actually exists and it has a year 2020. Now we can go ahead and create one more year. So if we go to experiences and create a new year, 2021, and there we worked as a backend developer at, let's say, Facebook, or now it's Meta. So let's say Meta, and description can be, I worked with Node.js and VR. And let's go ahead and publish that. So now if we reload the page, you can notice 2020 and 2021. And inside of there, we also have a list of all of the works. So we need to have a nested map. Let's go ahead and fix that. We're going to keep this commented down below because we need to add one more div right here, a motion.div. And this motion div is going to have just two properties, class name equal to app__skills dash exp dash item. And it's also going to have a key equal to experience dot year to make it unique. There we can simply render out a div, and that div is going to have a class name equal to app__skills dash exp dash year. The only thing we're going to have there is going to be a paragraph that's going to have a class name equal to bold dash text, and it's going to render experience dot year. Of course, now we're talking about an experience and not work. So now if we save that, you can see we have 2020 and 2021. And just below that div, now is the time that we create another motion.div. That div is going to have a class name equal to app__skills dash exp dash works. And then finally inside of there, we can do our nested map. So we're first looping over the years and then we're looping over the experiences for each year. So we can say experience dot works dot map, and then we get each individual work. There we go. Now what we can do is uncomment this big block of code and put it back in its place inside of our second map. There we go. Hopefully this wasn't so weird and it still made sense. If you got lost at the time when we made this bug, definitely make sure to visit the source code. There's going to be an entire finished skills.jsx file, so you can simply copy and paste it and continue with the video. But I also hope that you were able to go through this bug with me and fix it together. And there we go. 2020 front-end developer Google, 2021 backend developer at Meta. This is great. And take a look at this. If we hover, we get this nice tooltip. So now we have more information on hover. Of course, now is the time that we style this better. So let's jump straight into skills.scss and let's continue with the styling. To style our experiences, we can target the .app__skills-exp. Let's give it a flex equal to 1, as well as the display equal to flex. Justify-content can be flex-start, as well as align-items also flex-start. Flex-direction is going to be column because we want to show one experience on top of another. Finally, we can also add a media query with the max width of 900. I think we already had it somewhere right here. We can paste it below, and there we can simply apply a margin-top of 2 rem if we are on devices with the max width of 900 pixels. Then finally, we can target each individual experience item by saying .app__skills-exp-item. Let's give it a width of 100%. We can give it a display is equal to flex. Flex-direction is going to be set to row. Justify-content is going to be flex start, as well as the align-items is going to be flex start. Finally, margin can be 1 rem on top and bottom and 0 on left and right. Now we can style our works by saying .app__skills-exp-works. Let's give it a flex is equal to 1. And then we can target each individual work. .app__skills-exp-work. Let's set a display is equal to flex. There we go. You can notice that these now go in a row, but we're going to soon change it to display, or rather flex-direction is going to be column. There we go. I'm going to expand this right here so that we can see it at the same time. And then let's also give it a justify-content equal to flex start, as well as the align items equal to flex-start. Let's also give it a margin-bottom of 1 rem, and let's make it a cursor pointer so they know that they can hover. There we go. Let's target this H4 specifically and give it a font weight of 500. There we go. And let's now target the P specifically. Give it a font weight of 400. Change the color to var --gray color. And finally, add a margin top of 5 pixels. There we go. This is still not looking good because we have to style these years. So let's go outside of all of our curly braces and say .app__skills-exp-year. Let's give it a margin-right of 3 rem. And finally, let's target the P tag inside of it. Give it a font weight of 800 to make it bold, as well as the color is equal to var, not gray color, but rather secondary color. Now it has that bluish color. And let's also do a media query for mobile devices. Add media, screen, and max-width is going to be 450 pixels. That's only for mobile devices. Let's give it a margin dash right of 1 rem. Of course, we're missing screen here. So if we fix that, now you can see that we have some nice spacing here. And the last thing we have to style is going to be this tooltip. So what we can do about the tooltip, we can say .skills dash tooltip. And in here, let's increase the max dash width of the tooltip to 300 pixels. There we go. And you're going to notice that this style is not going to be applied. So if we do something like background and try to make a background color completely white, you're going to notice that it's not going to work. It's still black. And this is something that you're going to come across when you want to style specific dependencies or specific packages. It's not going to be as easy as you thought. So I figured out that we have to do something that's not really recommended, and that is adding importance to the end of every CSS line. I don't want you to type all of this out, and it's usually not a good practice, but in this case, it worked like a charm. So again, the skills.scss file is going to be down in the description alongside all the other files and the source code. So simply paste this, and then it's going to look like this. This is much better. Of course, right now we're looking at it on a really small device. So as soon as we expand it, you're going to notice this looks much better. But you can also notice that this section is taking 100% of the space. This one as well as this one. And this one, not so much. We forgot to wrap our component with the app wrap. So let's do that right away. App wrap, we wrap it, and then that's going to be skills. Let's save it. And instantly that comes in the middle of the screen. And now we have our skills on the left side as well as our experience on the right side. This is looking great. Let's try to add one more experience under 2020, for example. So if we go here, go under 2020 and add item. Let's say that you became a blockchain developer even before it became cool. And let's say you became a blockchain developer at something like, let's still do Meta. I think it was Facebook in 2021. And then that's going to be description. I develop in Solidity, which is a programming language for Ethereum. Let's publish. And if we reload the page, there we go. Blockchain developer at Facebook. And now we're done with the skills and experience section as well. Only 2 more sections to go, the testimonial and the footer, which acts as a contact form. Now, if we scroll, we can see that we have quite a lot of cool sections, but I have one problem with that. We don't have a lot of good animations, because once these things animate once, nothing is going to happen. So we can create another higher order component, but this time we're going to wrap every single section with a motion div. So when we scroll, these sections are going to animate. Let's go ahead and do that right away. We can go inside of our wrapper, and there we can create a new component called motion wrap.js. There we can import React from React, as well as import motion from motion, or rather Framer motion. Then we can create a component. I can do an RAFCE, and this component is going to accept a component as its first parameter, and it's also going to accept class names as the second one, because we can change this dynamically. As the last function, it's also going to return a higher order component that's going to look like this. The only thing that we're going to return here is going to be a motion div. So right here, motion.div. That motion div is going to have the while in view property. And while it is in view, we're going to change the opacity from 0 to 1, but we can add one extra step, 0, 0, 1, and then we can add the y-axis, which is going to be an array of 100, 50, and then 0. So it's slowly going to animate in, and the opacity is going to be 1 only at the last one. This whole transition is going to last duration 0.5 seconds. And finally, the class name is going to be dynamic. So a template string, class names, and then also app__flex. Of course, the most important thing is to render our component inside of it, because this is just a wrapper and we still want to show everything else. Now we can go to our second section, which is the about section right here. So let's find the component for the about, and we can first import our motion wrap right here. But of course, remember, we also have to export it. So going back to wrapper, in the index, we can simply say export default as motion wrap, and that is coming from /motion wrap. Now in the about, alongside wrapping our application with the app wrap, we can also wrap it with a motion wrap, and that's going to look like this. So first we have our app wrap, and then the actual component is also going to be wrapped in a motion wrap like this, and we're going to provide it an extra class name, app__about. Then we can say comma about and provide one final class, app__whitebg. That means that we want to give it a white background, because notice, now we have white and then we have gray. It wouldn't be good otherwise if the entire website was just this grayish bluish color. So now we can copy this thing and then go to our work section. So let's go back to work right here, and let's simply paste what we copied. We of course have to import motion wrap, and we can do that by pressing Control space and clicking right here. If that didn't auto import it for you, feel free to manually import it at the top. And then right here, we just have to change this about to work. This here is going to be app__work. Right here, we can also set the ID of the section to work, and this is going to be primary BG. There we go. Let's save it. And as you can see, we have one issue here, and that issue is that in here we need an S. So this is going to be works. This is going to make everything work. Finally, we have to change the color of this section, and we can do that by going to skills. And one more time, we can paste what we copied, import the motion wrap right here, call skills. Same thing here, app__skills, write skills right here, and that's going to be white BG. So now we have this nice combination of a primary color, white primary color, and then white again. So we are really differentiating these sections and making each one stand out. Since this is now white, we really do need to add a background color to each one of these circles. So let's do just that. I'm going to go to JSM portfolio, and then we can go to skills. Let's go to Node.js, and then we can go to our index.css and find a nice color we want to use. For example, let's try with this blue one. Simply paste it here, click publish, go back to our application and reload. And there we go. This is a bit too strong of a color, so let's choose a lighter color, something like EDF2F8. We can copy it, paste it here, and click publish one more time. Now, if we go back and reload, you can notice that we have this nice gray circle. Let's go ahead and apply that color to all of our skills. Flutter as well, publish, and the same thing goes for Figma as well as React. This just shows you that it's incredibly easy to update things, not just add them using Sanity. So now if we go back, reload the page, you can see that we have these nice circles looking great. So now finally, we can move to the next section, which is going to be testimonial. Let's go right here. And now we already know that we're going to use most of the things that we already use in the skills section. because we have to fetch some data from Sanity, such as skills and experiences. We also have to wrap our component. So let's go ahead and open up our Visual Studio Code to its entirety, and let's put our skills side by side with the testimonial, because there's definitely going to be some stuff that's going to be similar. So first of all, let's copy our motion, paste it there. We're going to also need to import some icons. So right here, we can say import HI chevron, and that's going to be left, as well as HI chevron, and that's going to be right as well, coming from react-icons/HI. We're going to also need the app wrap as well as the URL for and the client, so we can copy and paste those two lines as well. And I'm not sure if you've noticed so far, I always like to put one extra line between all of the external imports to divide them from the internal imports that are inside of our file system. We're going to also need to import the use state and use effect hooks, and we can copy the experience and the skills as well. But this time, it's not going to be experience and skills, rather it's going to be brands and set brands, as well as the testimonials and set testimonials. So we can put that here instead of the set skills. We also need to have a state for the index of the current testimonial we're currently viewing. So right here, that's going to be current index, as well as the set current, and that's going to be index. There we go. At the start, that's going to be set to 0. Next, we're going to have our use effect, and the use effect is going to be quite similar. So we can paste it right here. And instead of fetching experiences and skills, we can fetch testimonials and brands. There, instead of simply saying set experience, we're going to remove this console log, and we're going to say set testimonials. And for the bottom one, we can rename that to brands query. There, we're simply going to set brands. So now we're fetching all of the data from Sanity Studio. Of course, this is where our JSX is going to go, but we can also copy all of our higher order components. So right here, that's going to be testimonial, as well as the app_testimonial. The ID is going to be testimonial one more time. And in this case, we want to have a primary background color, so we can have primary BG. So now let's close our skills, put this side by side with the editor, and let's see how does it look like. Okay, just an empty page that has testimonial written right here. Of course, now is the time that we code it out. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we want to have an empty React fragment. Inside of there, we need to have a dynamic code block that's going to check if testimonials exist. And we can do that by saying if testimonials.length. If there is length, they definitely need to exist. So if they do exist, then we're going to render a React fragment. And inside of that React fragment, we're going to render a div. That div is going to have a class name equal to app__testimonial dash item, as well as the app__flex. Inside of there, we also need to have an IMG with a source URL for testimonials, and we need to get the current index of a specific testimonial. Right here, more specifically, we need to get the image URL, IMG URL of that specific testimonial. And for the alt name, we can simply use testimonial. There we go. So of course, this is not going to work now because we don't have our testimonials, but now might be a good time to add some in Sanity Studio. So if we go to our testimonials, let's go ahead and add one. The name is going to be Sarah. The company is going to be, let's say, Netflix. And right here, we need to enter Sarah's image, but it looks like Sarah is not in the assets. So this is a time where you would go on LinkedIn and you would take Sarah's photo. But in this case, let's say that Sarah is really good at CSS design, so we're going to use CSS logo for her head. And the feedback is going to be, Mikhail is an awesome developer. There we go. And publish. We already had one testimonial from before, from Michael from Google. And let's say our Michael is like HTML. Great job, would recommend. Let's publish that as well. Great. So now if we go back to our React application, reload the page and scroll down, you're going to notice that we have just a big CSS logo. So now how are we going to style that CSS logo? Well, of course, that's not just a logo. It's going to be the entire testimonial message. So let's add a div with a class name equal to app __ testimonial and dash content. Inside of there, let's add a p tag that's going to be of a class name equal to p dash text. And there we can also render testimonials and then current index. Of course, this time we don't want the image URL, rather we want .feedback that the person left. Mikhail is an awesome developer. Great. Now you can notice that many times we're using this long line right here. Testimonials, current index, something. Whenever you notice that you're reusing something quite a lot, definitely make sure to copy it, get it out right here, and then say const, let's do test as in short for testimonial, and paste it here. Then now you can just use every time test something, and it's going to work the same as it worked right here. That's great. Below our p tag, we're going to have a div, and inside of that div, we're going to have an h4 with a class name equal to bold dash text, and there we're simply going to render test dot name. Okay, Sarah posted this, and we can duplicate this, change this to h5, change the class name to p dash text, and finally test dot company, so that we know which company Sarah is from, and that is Netflix. Great. So this was our first div, and just below that, we're going to have one more div. This div is going to allow us to move across different testimonials. So it's going to have a class name equal to app __ testimonial dash btns, and also app __ flex. Inside of there, we're going to have a div. That div is going to have a class name app __ flex, and it's also going to have an on click. There, we're going to call a callback function, and then that callback function is going to call the handle click function, which we need to create. To that handle click function, we have to provide the number of the testimonial we want to see. And since this is going to be a back arrow, we can do current index -1. But what if we're already on the first index? Then we cannot go back. So what we can say, if the current index is == 0, then we're going to move to testimonials dot length -1. So we're going to move to the last testimonial. And if we're not on the first one, that means that we can go back. So it's going to be current index -1. And then inside of there, we can simply render hi chevron, and this is going to be left. Now we can duplicate this div below. And right here, this is going to be just a bit different. We're going to check if the current index is == testimonials dot length -1. So if we're currently on the last index, then we want to go to the first index. So that's going to be right here, 0. And if you're not on the last, we simply want to say current index +1. And of course, we have to create our handle click function. So just at the top, right here, we can say const handle click is going to be equal to, it's going to accept an index, and we can say set current index is going to be equal to index. That's all that we have to do. And now we have those two icons and we can move around. Of course, this is going to be the right icon. There we go. So now we have our Michael from Google, great job, would recommend, and also our Sarah from Netflix. Now, below this entire testimonials.length, so below here, we're going to create one more div. And this div is going to have a class name equal to app__testimonials dash brands, and then app__flex. There, we want to loop over the brands. So brands.map, we get an individual brand, and then we want to return a motion.div for that specific brand. Our motion is going to have some framer motion properties, such as while in view, we want to change the opacity from 0 to 1. Then the transition is going to last the duration of 0.5 seconds. And the type is going to be set to tween. And finally, since we're mapping over, we can provide a key equal to brand._ID. Inside of there, we simply want to render the brand image. So we can say img src URL for brand.img URL. And we can also provide the alt tag, which is going to be brand.name. I'm missing an extra curly brace here. And I think this is going to be it. So far, we haven't added our brands. So if we go here and add a new brand, let's go ahead and simply drag and drop the brand image. So in here, you can add the logos of the companies you worked for. So let's say we worked for New Balance. New Balance. Let's add a few more. Something like, let's do Skype. Let's also do Spotify. And let's also add Bolt. There we go. So now we have 4 different companies. Let's go back to our React application and reload the page. There we go. Huge logos are appearing right here. Of course, we have to style them to make them smaller. So now let's go back and let's focus on styling our testimonial page. We can do that by going to testimonial.scss. And since this is looking awful right now, we can immediately focus on styling this SVG image for the brand. That way, we don't have to look at those huge ass logos. Let's start with .app__testimonial-brands. Let's set the width to be 80%, as well as the flex-wrap set to wrap and the margin-top set to 2 rem. This is not going to change anything yet, but as we target the inner div, we can set the width of the inner div to 150 pixels. We can also give it a margin of 1.5 rem. Inside of this div, let's target our image and give it a width of 100%, like this. We can also set the height to be equal to auto, and the object fit can be set to cover. We can also apply a filter equal to gray scale and then 1. So this is going to make the logos appear dark at the start. But for some reason, looks like our styles are not getting applied. .app__testimonial-brands. So let's see if this is how we called it right here. Looks like I'm missing an I here and I have an extra S. So if we fix this, you can see that now our logos are looking sharp. Now, of course, they're not going to stay grayed out forever. Below this image, we can say and hover img, and then the filter is going to be grayscale 0. This is an amazing way to provide color on hover. Looking great. Below our hover, we can also apply a few media queries like add media, screen, and min width is going to be 2000 pixels. So let's change this to min. There, we can increase the width of the image just a bit to 210 pixels. and increase the margin to be equal to 2 rem. On the other hand, we'll have to make this a lot smaller for mobile devices, where the max width is going to be around 450 pixels. There, the width is going to be 120 pixels, and margin is going to be 1 rem. Finally, we can copy this media query, go below this curly brace right here, and there we want to set the width to be equal to 100%, and this is going to be for devices of the max width up to 800. So if we are on tablet devices or larger mobile phones, then we want this section to take 100% of the screen. Of course, now we are yet to style our main part, which is the testimonial. Let's start by scrolling above, and just above our app testimonial brands, we can add .app__testimonial. Our flex is going to be set to 1, the width is going to be set to 100%, and the flex dash direction is going to be set to column. Now our testimonials are going to go on top. Then we can change the .app__testimonial and then dash item. Let's change the width to be 60%. We're going to set a min height of 320 pixels. This is going to make it so that once we move through different testimonials, the height doesn't change, no matter how much text there is. Let's also apply a background dash color of var dash white and then dash color. There we go. We need to make this a display equal to flex. Of course, add a semicolon here. And then we need to add a padding of 2 rem. A border dash radius of 15 pixels is going to help just a bit to round the corners. And let's add a box dash shadow 0, 0, 30 pixels, RGBA 0, 0, 0, and then 0.1. That's going to make it float in the air. Finally, let's add a transition. And our transition is going to be all 0.3 seconds, ease in, out. So finally, we can style this image by saying IMG. Width is going to be 100%, and the height is going to be 100% as well. Border radius is going to be 50% to make it rounded. And object dash fit is going to be cover. Then below this image, we want to apply some media queries. So let's say add media, screen, and min dash width is 2000 pixels. There, we can set the min height to be a bit higher, like 450 pixels, as well as the image to have a width of 150 by height 150 pixels as well. This is for extra large devices. And finally, we need 2 more media queries. So add media, screen, and max dash width. That's going to be 850 pixels for tablets and mobile devices. In there, we want to have a width set to 100% because for smaller devices, we want this testimonial to take the entirety of the screen. And finally, the last media query is going to say add media screen and max width 600 pixels. There, we simply want to change the flex dash direction to be column because there is no more horizontal space. So if we go below 600, you can see this comes below the icon. Great. So of course, our content still isn't styled. So what we can do is we can target the .app__testimonial dash content. We can set the flex to be equal to 1, the height to be equal to 100%. In here, I can remove this auto. Padding can be set to 0 on top and bottom and 2 rem on left and right. And we can text align left. Finally, we want to change the display to be equal to flex dash direction to be set to column, justify dash content to be set to space dash around, and finally align dash items to be set to flex-start. Okay, so now this is already looking just a bit more like it, but it's still not even close to what we want to have at the end. Let's change our P tag by saying P, font-size of 1.25 rem to make it a bit bigger. Let's also change the line-height to something like 2 rem. We can change the color to be equal to var, and this is going to be black color. And we can also change the font-family to be var and then font-base. After that, we want to target our H4. Our H4 is going to have a font-weight of 600. And the color is going to be equal to var and then secondary color. And let's also apply a bit of margin, more specifically margin top of 2 rem. There we go. Last things last, we have to apply our H5. So right here, our H5 is going to have a font weight of 400. It's going to have a color equal to var gray color. And the margin top is going to be set to 5 pixels. Now, this profile photo still seems quite too big for me. So let's see if we maybe mess something up with the image. And it looks like we did. I meant to type 100 pixels for the width and the height of the image, not 100%. And this is already making it look so much better. This is our testimonial. Now, the last thing we have to do is style these buttons, which allow us to move through different testimonials. So just above the brands, we can say .app __ testimonial and then -btns. There, we can change the flex direction to be set to row, and we can also give it a margin top to be equal to 1 rem, just to space it out a bit. We can target the div that's inside of that container and give it a width of 50 pixels, as well as the height of 50 pixels. Then we need to give it a border -radius of 50%, and finally background -color to be equal to var and then white color. Now we have 2 of these circles. Of course, we have to add a margin. So margin is going to be 1 rem, just like this. And let's also add a transition, which is going to be equal to all 0.3 seconds and then ease in out. Finally, we can target the SVGs inside of them and give them a width of 20 pixels and also height of 20 pixels. We can also change the color to be equal to var secondary color. That's changing the color of these little SVG icons. Now below that, on hover, so we can do and hover, we can change the background color to be equal to var secondary color, and we can change the color of the SVG to be equal to white color, just to provide some contrast. So right here, that's going to be color white. There we go. So now if we hover, you can see that it changes color. And it looks like we misspelled something somewhere because these icons should be in the middle of these circles. So if we go back here, check out these circles, that's going to be app flex, and then app __ testimonial -btns, as well as app flex. And class name is the thing that is wrong here. So if we fix that, you can see that now they are in the center, and this is looking great. The reason why there is so much empty space right here is because we added a minimum height to this element, and of course, everybody is going to write much longer recommendations for you, not just one sentence. So to simulate this properly, we can go back here to content. Maybe we can go under abouts, and we can copy what we have here, go back to our testimonials, and paste that here. This is definitely longer than what we've had so far, and maybe Sarah can say the same thing. So now let's save those documents, go back to our site, and reload the page. And there we go. This is already looking more like it because now we have those longer testimonials, which people usually write, looking great. So now if we expand this on the entire site, you can see that we have a dedicated testimonial section. And for future employers or clients, it's definitely a great sign that somebody else left you a testimonial as well. We also have these brands that you worked with. This is looking great. Since we've also wrapped this component with the motion wrap, as soon as we scroll to it, you're going to notice that it's going to appear. It's extremely subtle, but it works. And with that said, there is only one last section to go, and it is the footer. You might think that it's going to be simple, but it's not just a basic footer. It is a contact me footer, and we're going to make it fully functional. So to start working with footer, we can collapse this, close all of our currently open files, and then Control-click the footer and open up the footer component. To start working on our footer, let's go ahead and import useState from React, as well as import images, which are coming from // constants. We'll also need to import the app wrap, as well as the motion wrap. And that's going to be coming from // wrapper. Then we'll have to import the client from // client. And finally, we'll have to import the footer CSS, which is already here. Now, just so we don't forget, let's immediately wrap our footer by saying app wrap. And then right here, we can call a motion wrap wrapper, pass in the footer, as well as the app __ footer class name. And finally, we have to say contact for the section ID and provide the background, app __ white BG. Now, motion wrapper is not here because that's going to be just motion wrap, of course. And if we save that, we now have our entire footer. The footer is going to take the full height of the screen because it's a section of its own. It's going to be a contact form. So to start working on our footer, let's go ahead and start with an empty React fragment. And inside of there, we're going to have an h2 with a class name equal to head-text. There, we're going to say, take a coffee and chat with me. There we go. Already looking a lot better. Now, below that h2, we're going to provide a div. And this div is going to have a class name equal to app __ footer -cards. Inside of that div, we're going to have two separate cards. So we can say div that's going to have a class name equal to app __ footer -card. Inside of that div, we're going to have an img tag that's going to have a source equal to images.email. And the alt tag is simply going to say email. Of course, we also have to provide an anchor tag, and that anchor tag is going to have a special href property, mail to. Whenever you use mail to, you can enter an email address like hello@mikhail.com. And then once you click on this link, it's going to lead you straight to his email. Let's just add a class name equal to p-text. And in here, we can say hello@mikhail.com. Of course, feel free to enter your own email right here. Now we can duplicate this div just below. And there, we're not going to render the email, rather we're going to render the mobile icon and rename this to mobile as well. There, we can use another special href property, which is called tel, as in telephone. And let's do something like +1. And let's continue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8, 9. Of course, in here, you can share your own phone number. Let's copy it and put it right here in the anchor tag as well. Great. Now we have our email and we have our phone number. Of course, below we want to have our form. So what we can do is just let's leave some space here and create a div that's going to represent our form. It's going to have a class name equal to app underscore underscore footer dash form, and also space app underscore underscore flex. Inside of there, we're going to have a div, and this div is going to have a class name equal to app underscore underscore flex. There we can put our first input. So our input is going to have a class name equal to p-text, and then it's going to be of a type text. Placeholder is going to say your name. Value is going to be name. We're going to create it soon. And we also have to have an onChange, which is going to be handle change input. This is a function that we are yet to create. And of course, we also have to provide a name right here. So the name of this field is going to be name as well. Now we can essentially duplicate this div just below, use this one for email. Placeholder is going to be your email. Name is going to be email, and value is going to be email as well. That's great. Now, of course, all of these things are not yet defined, but as soon as we implement all of the other input fields, we can focus on defining the states. So now below this div, we're going to have one more div, and this div isn't going to have a class name. Rather, inside of there, we're going to have a text area. That's going to be for our message. So let's add a class name equal to p-text. Also a placeholder equal to your message. Let's also do a value equal to message. Name is also going to be equal to message. And finally, onChange is going to be equal to handle change input. The last thing we of course need is going to be below this div, and that's going to be a button. Our button is going to be of a type is equal to button. It's going to have a class name equal to p-text, and it's going to have an onClick property equal to handle submit. And there we can simply say send message. There we go. So now let's go ahead and apply all of our use states. To create our use state, we can use that use state snippet, and let's call it form data. And then set form data, and at the start, it's going to be an empty object that's going to have a name set to empty string, as well as the email set to an empty string, and finally a message also set to an empty string. Then we want to have a special state, so one more state, called is form submitted. That way we'll know, are we currently showing the form or are we showing the success message? At the start, this is set to false. And finally, we need one more use state, which is going to be loading. So right here, use state snippet, loading. If we are loading, then we're going to show a loading message, and at the start we're not, so it's going to be false. Right here at our send button, we can dynamically check if we are loading, and if we are loading, then we're going to simply say sending. And else, if we're not, we're going to say send message. Again, just a small touch, but it definitely makes a difference. So now that we have our state fields, we also need to destructure our form data, because notice right here, we're saying name, email, and not form data.something. So we can say const destructure the name, email, and the message, and that is coming from, or rather equal to, form data. So this here is called a process of destructuring. We're just pulling these values outside of this object. Then we also need a const handle change input function. And this function accepts a key press event. So right here, we can destructure something from that event. And that something is name and the value coming from or equal to e.target. So we're getting the input that we're currently typing in, and we want to get the name of that input and the value that's currently in there. With those values, we can dynamically set the form data. So we can call setFormData, create an object, destructure all of the current values that are there. So that's going to be form data, and then simply dynamically change the name to be equal to a specific value. This here is just a bit more advanced React. So if this doesn't feel natural to you, don't worry at all. This is something that takes practice. So with that said, we just have one more thing to do, and that is to implement the handle submit function. So we can say const handle submit is equal to, and that's it. While we're submitting it, we can set the loading to be equal to true. And then later on at the end, we're going to set the loading back to false. But this is already enough for the page to load. And at the bottom, we should be able to see our fields. Here they are. They look awful. So as soon as we do this handle submit, we're going to fix the styles. There, we have to form a contact object. We have to follow the sanity guidelines, so we can say the type of this specific object is going to be contact. It has to have a name equal to formData.name. It also has to have an email equal to an email. And finally, it has to have a message equal to a message. I just noticed that we destructured everything in here, so we don't have to say formData.something. And once we have the contact, this is the first time that we are using our Sanity client to upload the data from our application. Usually, we've done it using the CMS. So right here, we can say client.create, and we want to create.contact. Then we can get some data back, like the information if this has been successful or not. If it has been successful, then we can set the loading to be equal to false. And also we can set the setIsFormSubmitted to true. This here is going to help us to show a success message. So we can take this entire div and we can wrap it. More specifically, we can say if, so open a dynamic block and say if not is form submitted. In that case, we want to show this entire div. But else, we want to show something else. And that something else is just going to be a div that's going to have an h3 inside of it. And that h3 is going to have a class name equal to head text. And it's simply going to say, thank you for getting in touch. There we go. Of course, we have to end our curly brace right here. So now we're showing this code if the user hasn't submitted the form, and if they have, then we're going to show a success message. Great. Of course, to be able to see this in its full glory, we have to implement the styles. And you know the drill. We can go into our footer, open up the footer.scss, and start with the styles. Let's start with the footer itself. .app__footer. Then we can set the flex to be equal to 1 and the width to 100%. We can also change the flex dash direction to be set to column. That way the title is going to appear above. Now we're going to target the .app__footer dash cards. We want to give our cards a width of 60%. Let's save that. There we go. Also, let's give them a display is equal to flex. Justify dash content is space evenly. Align dash items is set to center. Flex dash wrap is set to wrap. And let's also give it some margin. Let's do something like 4 rem, 2 rem, and then 2 rem as well. There we go. Now these are spanning one below another. Now let's style the individual card by saying .app __ footer dash card. Let's give it a min dash width to be equal to 290 pixels. Let's give it a display is equal to flex. A flex dash direction is set to row. Justify dash content is set to flex start, and align dash items is set to center. Again, no changes yet. But let's keep adding the margin, in this case, to 1 rem and 0, and let's add a padding of 1 rem. That's going to give them some space. Let's add a border dash radius of 10 pixels, as well as the cursor pointer. And finally, background color is going to be set to a whitish variant, something like FE F4 F5. There we go. Let's also add a transition, the same one we've been using so far, all 0.3 seconds, ease in, out. And now the moment you've been all waiting for, we can style the image and give them a width of 40 pixels, as well as the height of 40 pixels. There we go. So now we have these two nice div containers where we have our contact. Let's also provide some margin, something like 0, and then on left and right, 0.7 rem. There we go. Let's style the p tag as well by making it a bit bolder. So we can give it a font dash weight of 500, or let's make it 600 to make it just a bit bolder. Let's also target the anchor tag. Let's, of course, set the text decoration to be equal to none. Already a lot better. And let's also copy the font weight to that anchor tag as well. There we go. I think for this 500 is going to be enough. Then once we hover over it, so we can say and colon hover, we want to apply a box shadow of 0, 0, 25 pixels, and the color is going to be FE F4 F5. There we go. Let's save it. And again, it is barely noticeable, but it's there. On mobile devices, we want this to take the entire screen. So what we can do is say add media, screen, and max width is going to be 450 pixels. So this is for mobile devices. And then there, we want to give it a width equal to 100%. And we want to copy this, go below our purple brace here, at least in my case, and then paste it. There, we want to also do the same thing with tablet devices up to 768 pixels. Just to differentiate these two cards a bit, we can call the .app __ footer dash cards, and then target the .app __ footer dash card, and then target the last dash child. In here, we can change the background dash color to be equal to hash F2 F7 FB. So this is going to be just a bit of a different color. And of course, I'm just missing an O here. So if we add that, you're going to notice that nice difference between the blue and this nice pink orange color. Great. So now finally, we can start styling the form. We can say .app __ footer. We can give it a width equal to 60%. I think that should be more than enough. Flex dash direction is going to be set to column. There we go, already looking better. And let's give it some margin, like 1 rem on top and bottom, and 2 rem on left and right. Now we can go inside of there and target a specific div, just like so. Give it a width of 100%. We can also give it a margin of 0.75 rem on top and bottom and 0 on left and right to space them up a bit. Let's also give them a border dash radius of 10 pixels. And let's also give them a cursor of pointer. Finally, the most important thing is giving them a background color, and that is going to be var dash dash primary dash color. There we go. So now we have those divs. Let's also give it a transition, and the transition is going to be, again, the same one we've used so far, all 0.3 seconds, ease in, out. We can target all the inputs and all the text areas inside of our form by using a comma operator in between. Let's give them a width of 100%. Let's give them a padding of 0.95 rem. There we go. Also important, let's set that border to be equal to none. Okay, much better. Let's give them a border dash radius of 7 pixels. Not noticeable yet, but as we add a background color of primary color, you'll be able to notice that they get this nice bluish color. Let's also change the font family by saying font family is equal to font, or rather var dash dash font dash base. We also need to change that color to be equal to var dash dash, and then we're going to use a secondary color here. So let's say secondary dash color. The last important thing is to set the outline to be equal to none. Now, when you click on it, you won't get that ugly outline. Let's give our text area a bit of height by saying text area and provide a height of 170 pixels. Finally, once we hover, we can give it some animation or a box shadow. So let's simply copy that box shadow from above. There we go, hover, and paste it below our text area. In this case, we won't have this white color, but rather var dash dash primary dash color. So now if we hover, you should see just a light background effect, but that's how it should be, nothing major. Then below this parenthesis here, we want to finally style our button, padding of 1 rem on top and bottom and 2 rem on left and right. Let's round it a bit by giving it a border radius of 10 pixels. Let's also set the border to be equal to none. There we go, much better. Let's change the background color to be equal to secondary color. There we go. This is just a bit too much. But if we change the font weight to be 500, and if we change the color to be equal to var dash dash white dash color, then this is going to look much better. We can also remove that outline by saying outline is set to none, and also margin is 2 rem 0, 0, 0. There we go. Let's also change the font dash family to be equal to font dash base, and let's provide a cursor dash pointer, or rather not dash, setting the cursor to be pointer. And now we have this nice button. The last thing we have to do is provide a media query, which we can copy from here. This is for tablet devices. So let's simply paste it below our button. And that's going to be width of 100% and margin 1 rem and then 0. So this is looking so much better. Let's now expand it. And would you look at that? On full HD devices, it's looking great as well. But now, what do you say that we actually send our message? So imagine that you've built this great portfolio, you put it out there. Of course, people can email you by clicking this button or call you by clicking this button here. But let's say that somebody, for example, Sarah, wants to contact you through the form. The name can be something like sarah@gmail.com, and the message looks like it cannot be typed in because we have a mistake in our form. So if we get to the footer, we can see right here where our text area is that we have a message, and for some reason I left the name to be dynamic message instead of just a string of a message. So if we fix this, now we should be able to type inside of our form. Hello there, you, my man, are hired. There we go. And let's click send message. Sending. And thank you for getting in touch. This is looking great. Now, you might be wondering, is this email going to go to our mail or how are we going to receive it? Well, I wanted to use Sanity to do absolutely everything. So you're going to receive your message through Sanity right here under contact. And there we go. Sarah sent us a message and that added this message right here. So in here, you can read their email, you can read their message, and then you can use your own email provider to respond back. Isn't that great? It just shows you that you can also add content to the database or the CMS through the forms that are on the page. That is great. Now let's open up the inspect tools to see how does the website look on mobile. And if we go to toggle device toolbar and go to iPhone 12 Pro, let's scroll to the top. There we go. Hello, I am Michael. I know that good apps mean good business. We have all of the things that we're good at. My creative portfolio section with different applications such as UI and UX, skills and experience. In here, we can see where we worked at specific years. Here is our great testimonial section, the companies we worked for, and finally, take a coffee and chat with me. This is looking great. So that's it. We also have these sections right here, which we can use to scroll through different parts, and that is looking great. The only thing that I can see is not fully done is the favicon on the top as well as the name of the site, but that's going to be an easy fix. We can go to our React application, go to public, index HTML, and then right here, you can put your name. So let's say Michael in this case. There we go. And the last thing you can do is change the favicon right here. In this case, let's try to use something from the assets, such as this logo right here. So what we can do is copy it, paste it in here. Of course, you would use your own logo right here. You can make it using a lot of the free logo providers on the internet, or you can just quickly design something on your own. And then we can say /logo.png. Now, if you save that, it looks like this logo doesn't fit with the favicon that well because it's not circular. Usually you want to have something that's square or a circle. So if we browse our assets a bit, we can see that there is a profile.png. Let's try with that, copy it, paste it into the public, and then finally right here, say profile.png. Okay, this is just a bit better, but looks like Michael is a happy guy, so that's going to be good for him. In your case, I would suggest simply use your first name and last name for the name, and for the favicon, use the initials of your last and first name. Great. And with that said, we've come to the end of creating this amazing portfolio website. Isn't this great? Of course, the main point of the portfolio is to add your own projects and your own knowledge and your own skills to it. So feel free to change it in any way, and most importantly, add some great testimonials about yourself, add the skills, and add the projects that you've created. Of course, as with every other JavaScript mastery video, now is the time to deploy this project. I'm not going to leave you here with an undeployed project. We're going to take it a step further and deploy it. So to start with that, we can close all of the files and folders, collapse everything, and get ourselves ready to deploy it. To deploy our React application, we can first stop it from running. So let's go ahead and press Ctrl+C and then Y. Then you have to be sure that you are inside of the front-end React. And the only thing you have to do is run npm run build. This is the script that's going to run and build the optimized production build for your React application. This process usually takes just about half a minute, so I'll be right back. Even better, while that is going on, let's go ahead and open up the Netlify page. Netlify.com is what we're going to use to deploy our React application. It is incredibly quick. So let's go ahead and log in. In here, you're going to have a few of your sites. You can visit sites, and then the only thing you have to do is go to your file tree, Frontend React, right-click the build folder, and then reveal in File Explorer. Once you do that, you can simply drag and drop the build folder right into here. This is going to deploy your site in a matter of seconds. So let's just wait. And there we go. You can also go to domain settings. And if we go under domains, options, edit site name, in here you can put your name. So let's do something like Michael, and that's going to be portfolio. Let's go ahead and save it. And now if you go to michael.portfolio.netlify.app, your app is now live and on the internet. You can share it with your friends. I was about to say put it on your portfolio, but this is your portfolio. So put some other applications on here. But what is happening? Our data is not here. But don't worry, that is completely fine. The only thing you have to do to fix this is go back to your terminal, cd ... cd into backend sanity, and run sanity manage. This is going to open up our management tools. You can go to API and then course origin. Now you can copy your current domain name and add it to the course origin. That way we'll be able to send the data to this domain as well. And if you do that and reload the page, the data is going to appear. If this doesn't work the first time once you reload, you'll have to press Ctrl, Shift, and then R, which does a hard reload of the page, but eventually the data is going to appear. And this is looking great. A really important thing when it comes to deploying your portfolio is having a custom domain name and also incredibly fast hosting. So down below, I'm also going to include the link to my favorite hosting provider where you can get your own custom domain name. With that said, we are done. This is your portfolio. Isn't it great? Of course, you can change the image of our happy Michael here. You can change the logo. You can change the things that you're good at, as well as add your own projects to this portfolio, update the skills and experience, get some testimonials, and then wait for the messages that your clients or potential employers are going to send to you. Once you build this portfolio fully, make sure to post it on Twitter, tag me, JavaScript Mastery Pro on Twitter, and just JavaScript Mastery on Instagram. I would be happy to share your work. With that said, huge thanks to Sanity, not only for sponsoring this video, but also for creating such an amazing CMS platform that made all of this possible. That was it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a wonderful day.